I got held to ransom a couple of times for some fairly hefty pay rises. And a couple of guys I had to say, look, I can't give you any more. You're only 24 and been qualified for 12 months. I can't pay you that. You always hear about my mate. My mate's said that I say, well, go and work for your mate then.
What is success to you?
I think it was a learn to love it experience.
And there's always pitfalls that you can fall in, but then you've got no one else to blame but yourself.
Number one thing if you're struggling is to catch other people about it.
Guys, before we start this episode, let me just quickly jump in here just to thank our content partners, Abodo, for supporting Better Builder. We love what these guys stand for, especially around their sustainability and biodiversity. Abodo is actually thinking way beyond just sustainability, and we know that that is important to more and more clients that builders work with. And all from a family-owned company as well. So thanks, Abodo. We love what you guys do. Now let's kick into this episode. Scott Thrupp, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. As you came in, it started raining. We're looking like wet cats probably now, running out, getting a coffee.
It was torrential.
Yeah.
Great day to not be outside building.
Yeah, well, there you go. So I'm getting you on a good day. I've been wanting to get you in for a while. We've been sort of going back and forth with Amanda, your marketing person.
Yeah.
Don't know if you're allowed to say marketing lady anymore, marketing person.
She's great.
Yeah, and she's
she
good.
Twisted my arm.
Yeah, she twisted your arm. And you were, I think originally you said no, and then now yes. So.
Yeah. Well, what do you got to lose? Just
exactly.
give it a go.
Exactly. Well, could lose everything. No, thanks Amanda for twisting Scott's arm. So I want to hear a little bit about the early days. Where did you grow up, Scott? Did you grow up around here? Where did you go to school? That sort of thing. Like, what was your childhood like?
Yeah, so I grew up in Papakura out in South Auckland, and was fortunate enough I went to primary school out there, and then transferred to King's College when I was at college age, which I was very fortunate enough to do, and then that was a great experience for me, and that's where sort of everything started for me.
Did you go to boarding school at King's?
No.
Just day boy?
No, I liked going home to mum each night.
Yeah. I went to Auckland Grammar, so I know you guys very well. Used to play a lot of rugby against you guys.
Yeah, King's Grammar game this Saturday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, I'm better watch that then. I'm not. I don't know if I won't be going, but they put these games on TV now, right? Don't they?
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So, did you play rugby?
No. Well,
or
I
sport?
did. I did when I was younger. But no, when I got to college, they were all way too big, and I was way too soft, and I just went down. I played a lot of golf back then.
Cool.
And so that was a lot less contact, and got stuck into that. Yeah,
I remember when I went to grammar. I came from South Africa. I came from a school that was about 350 odd students. And then went to grammar, 2,500 boys, and then I thought I was quite good at rugby, and then these guys are way better. And then I thought I was quite fast. I was like, nah, I'm actually quite slow, and it was actually a bit of a hard pill to swallow.
A bit of a wake up call.
Yeah, exactly, of the realities, right? When you go to those big schools. Okay, so who was Scott in high school? Were you a jock? You play a bit of golf? Were you a bit of a hippie? Like what? How would your friends have described you?
I sailed under the radar. I wasn't a big academic. I was sort of middle of the road, maybe subpar. But I loved anything that I could do with my hands. I did tech drawing. I did, it was all the first 15 guys and myself and woodwork, and so I've always loved sort of that, that sort of thing, and
it's always been good. So, and how would your friends describe you now? Then, do you think?
God, that's a tough one. I don't know. I've never thought of that.
I know, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, shit, I don't know. I mean, as I say, I don't know. They'd probably say I'm quite opinionated. I say what I think. You know, if I'm passionate about something and I believe in something, I'll speak up. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I won't. I'll just shut up, and I'll sort of sit back. So, yeah.
Well, that's good.
It's a good question, though.
Yeah, I think. Thanks. I think in today's world, that's a very few and far between getting people to speak their mind. You know, we've been very neutered, like, if that's the right word, like around different social topics and things or whatever.
Yeah.
And people are generally quite scared to speak up. So I think that's a positive thing to.
Thank you.
Positive attribute to have. So that's good. Okay, well, how did you then decide to get into building? So why not? I mean, you say you like drawing. Why not get into architecture or some sort of other office job? Why go into building?
Well, I always, like, our whole family's builders or horse trainers, really, and so father, builder, grandfather's builder, uncles, all builders. So it was a natural progression, and as a kid, I was always hammering nails in and tinkering with stuff. And but at King's, there was, back then, what was that? It was the end of it was 20 something years ago. There was a pressure to. I would have loved to have left school at fifth form and gone and done a building apprenticeship. But there was pressure to go to university, and where are you going? Like, you went to the careers advisor, and no one said go and be a sparky or a plumber or a builder. So I hummed and hard, stayed till sixth form, hummed and hard, stayed till seventh form, and then thought, well, I may as well just stay till the end. And I loved building. I didn't see myself being a carpenter my whole life. I thought, I want to get to project management. And so, probably different to a lot of the guys you've had on the podcast already, I don't have a trade qualification, a carpentry trade qualification. I went to Unitec, did a construction management degree.
Yep.
So did that for 2 years full time, straight out of school. And then I got a job which was bloody good. They paid for my second 2 years of my study. You did 4 1-week block courses and you worked in between.
Cool.
So by the time 4 years out of school, I had a degree in construction management, 2 years, no student loan, 2 years of on-site training under my belt. I did a cadetship, so I was with Aspect Construction, who's a great company. I still see a few of those guys now, and I did a cadetship with them, which is like an academic apprenticeship. Fletcher's and all them have cadetships. You do time on the tools. Like, I was one of the only cadets that insisted that I wanted to do the time. So I did a year on the tools with that. You went and you did the tendering with the QSs, you did site management. So you got a big range of project managers and different styles. And I think that's the key, was you pick up all the little bits and pieces, what doesn't work, what does work, and you can mould yourself into what you think works from there.
Yeah. I think that's such a great way to do it, because you can get sort of like, you get the theory side, you get the practical side. You're not just, because, a lot of builders, the traditional, way of doing it, they may be isolated just to being on the tools, and there's so many other aspects, right, that they never get taught. They just have to figure it out. So at least with your studies and cadetship, you can there's a few other elements that you can pick up, right?
Absolutely. And that, I suppose, office side of it is something that, I use still every day in what I do now. The stuff on the tools was good. What it did, it allowed me to sit in the smoko shed with guys for 12 months and listen and stuff like that. And so running guys it's good to know those insights as to how they, what makes them tick and everything like that. And not necessarily, as I say, that was going to be my career. It was just a little snippet of my progression to get to where I wanted to finally get to.
Yeah. And how practical or how relevant was the studies, like the 4 years of studying? Has that been incredibly valuable beyond that in terms of?
Well, back then it was all about, and I heard this the other day, that you know, like having a university degree on your CV is everybody had to have one, you know. So it was sort of like ticking that box, and everybody said, you know, like if you do a degree, it doesn't matter what it is, but it shows that you've got the nous to do it and stick it out. And so it was sort of like I did it for that. Like I think I learned more, and a lot of people will say you learn more on site. But I picked up snippets of, you know, we did programming and we were in with the architects as well, so you did group stuff with them. We did a lot of presenting, so you'd be in groups and you'd present, which those are all skills that, you know, like as a cadet at Aspec, I had to run. Like I did a lot at Sky City with Aspec when the new smoking laws changed and no one could smoke inside, so they had to add like half a dozen smokers decks to the casino. So, but I would run the health and safety because none of the guys wanted to do the health and safety, so the cadet gets that. And I did that, and I did back then we still used fax machines, so and to get everything like email wasn't a thing, and so
showing your age there a little bit.
Yeah, you'd stamp something, and then you'd stick it in the fax machine and send it to 10 people. But I'd do that, and I'd do the toolbox meeting. So I'd be standing in front of 200 guys doing a toolbox meeting, telling them that they need to, you know, check their leads for tags and wear their hard hat and stuff like that. But that's all character building, you know, and it's skills that you probably don't think you're learning at the time, but you are.
It's almost like soft skills, right? Rather than the hard skills, it's the soft skills that's transferable. Like you're talking in front of a bunch of people, you're managing people, you're managing a program, you know, all those sort of things.
Yeah,
right?
like I think the biggest thing is working under different site managers and different project managers and seeing how they make people tick and going, well, that works or that doesn't. You know, and somebody might talk to somebody after because you're the cadet and everybody talks to you and you roam around and you do, you know, and you're getting insights into, you know, what makes them tick, and it's sort of you just put it in the, you know, in your memory and go, well, that'll shape me a little bit different for down the road, you know.
Yeah.
As I say, you don't realise you're learning it at the time, but you are, you know. So I look the degrees have probably maybe they've changed since I did it, but you do learn stuff, but the biggest thing is learning on site, and I suppose that degree was sort of to go with the on-site stuff, and then down the road, no one looks at. I didn't have to sort of put it on a CV. I haven't had to put it on a CV since then, you know. So yeah.
And so, what are some of the things that you learned? Because it sounds like a lot of it's sort of that people management sort of part of it. What sort of people management type skills or things that you pick up from those guys back in the day that's transferable to running your business now?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is, or in any builder, you look at what we do now. We do housing now with renovations. Like you've got, you know, you could have 20 guys, you could have 10 guys. You've got a sparky, a plumber, a roofer, a drain layer, and you need all of them. You know, you can't be an asshole. You need all of them to make you look good, you know. And but after Aspec, I went and worked for my uncle, and he did big concrete and carpentry subcontracts for Fletcher's, Mainzeal, all of those types of things. And I suppose I then got, because I would have been a young 24-year-old, and I was running 30 guys on a big, and you get these site managers at these and they're just screamers and yellers. Like, that's back in the day, that's how they got things done. They screamed and yelled at you. And I just had everything all in it. I was on program, I had everything sorted to the point where they couldn't scream and yell at you. But that was their technique, and that was one thing that I picked up, that's not the way to get people motivated. You know, when you need them to do something, you know, you be their mate. You're not their mate, but you can't, you know, you need to respect them, and you need to give them, you know, you need to tell them they need to come and do their job with enough notice.
Yeah.
Like, just little things like that, you know, like giving someone a heads up a month out and then another one 2 weeks out, you know, so that the drain layer doesn't arrive to do the drainage and the scaffold's still up or something like that. And then that pisses him off and he goes, and, you know, like just treating people like you want to be treated. And because you're all, at the end of the day, it's only building. We're there to work towards a common goal of getting the house built. You know, there doesn't need to be all these little individual battles between people. Like, we come to work to make some money, and everybody needs to work together to sort of get it done.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So then you went from Aspect, you went and worked for your uncle for a while. And then how was there any sort of jobs in between until you started your own business?
No, so I worked for my uncle for maybe 7 or 8 years. So back then, and he ran his company, to use the term, sitting on a nail box, and very lean. And I basically learnt to run my business working for him, the same model. So I used to hire people. I used to, I used to fire people or let people go. Back then, all the jobs used to be scheduled. So this was sort of in the early 2000s. So every job that came up, the client would pay to have the whole job scheduled out. Like old school, they used to call it CC Wiffle at uni for quantity surveying. And so I used to run that. Every month I'd measure timber. I'd refer it back. I'd have spreadsheets going with man hours against timber. I'd be measuring variations. I'd be doing. So I learnt about how a job gets put together.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
right.
how does it get built up? And when you do a variation, you have to show enough evidence to make it foolproof that they can't not pay you. You know, and I think that time in commercial, it was a bit mundane for me towards the end. I wanted a bigger buzz out of building, and, you know, putting the roof on a skyscraper wasn't doing it. And so I sort of said to my uncle, look, I'll go out and I built a house for him just before I left in Remuera, a new house. And I said, well, look, it was the recession at the time, and I think the earthquakes had just happened. So it's sort of like, well, I'll go off and do this residential side for the business, you know. And he wasn't that keen on that. He liked, you know, they still do commercial now, and he wanted to stick to that. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go off and I'll do it, give it a go myself. You know, what have I got to lose? And my wife was just about to give birth to my first at the time, and, you know, we were renovating our house, and I, you know, it was a leap of faith. But I always thought to myself, well, you know, now's the time, and what's the worst that can happen? I go and get a job with somebody, you know.
Yeah, it's so funny how it happens all the time. I think it happened with me as well. As soon as you have your wife is pregnant with your first child, like, the mind starts going, you know, crazy, and not necessarily in a negative way. We just kind of like, well, how do I want to live, and what sort of life do I want to set up for my family? And then a lot of my friends have made a lot of changes during that period.
Yeah.
It's not the perfect time, right? But it seems to be the way.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit of a G up to make it work.
Yeah, and then so then you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna start my own company. What's behind the name 9045? Is that what you called it at the start?
Yeah, well, I wanted something. Well, that was Thrupp construction to start. Back when I used to contract to my uncle because I wasn't on wages, I was a contractor. So, but that was everyone, and I was like, well, I got to come up with something a bit more, a bit better than that. And so 90/45. I mean, it's a piece of 4x2. 90/45 is it's the most common thing we ring the merchant for an order.
Yeah.
And. So I thought that I went through a few different names, and I thought, well, that's something a bit different, bit of a talking point, and haven't bothered changing it since.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It definitely is like a bit of a talking point, right? Especially people that aren't in construction.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's that about? And then you can explain to them. So that's pretty good. So then you start your business. So then did you have any jobs lined up or anything? Or how did you get your first job?
What I did, so between sort of in my 20s to 30, so I started my own thing when I was 30, in that I did a lot of my own jobs. I bought houses and I'd do them up. I'd be renovating on the weekends and stuff like that. So I was in the middle of renovating our own place at the time. So I sort of was like, well, it's not making me any money, but it sort of is. And so I did that. I got the opportunity so I worked on it was the second, third, and fourth season of the block for the main contractor there, who I still keep in touch with most weeks. And so I went on with them to look after their guys on the job, and it was. So with that, you're sort of there for 3 months, and then the contestants are there for 10 weeks. So it's a little snippet, and you can go and do, I did my own thing in and around that. So it was sort of like I didn't want to leave contracting to my uncle and go and contract to somebody else, you know, which is sort of how some of the guys that leave me go and do, and they might get $3 an hour more or something. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to peel away from the teat, so to speak, and so that enabled me to have that little bit of security for 3, 4, 5 months and do my own things in between. I renovated my sister's house and got a good architect lead out of that, who I now still do work for. Cool. Same with the engineer. We've done other jobs with them. And then, it just sort of grew from there. The block thing, I sort of progressed myself out of that as we got busier. Every year I had to say, okay, I can do it part-time, and then finally I had to say, look, I can't do it. We're too busy.
And how does the block work? So did you have TV time? Were you on TV? Were you on screen?
I was never good on telly. A couple of times, very short snippets.
And did you see? So you didn't get any jobs from the block necessarily, or
no, I don't think so. No, right. I mean, I don't know. No.
Because a lot of guys go on there and they probably get a bit of work off the back of that, right? Just a bit of exposure.
They may do. I think that might attract a certain type of client. Look, I mean, definitely builders from on there would have got work. We were more behind the scenes,
right? Okay.
Yeah, so we sort of prepped everything ready for them. It wasn't about us being on telly, it was sort of like not seen and not heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. So, okay, so you started your own company. You had a lot of, you stacked all those skills on top of each other, even though you didn't really realize you were doing it. Especially the back of house stuff, how to run the project management.
Yeah.
How to run, a successful project without, just swinging a hammer. So that was kind of beneficial, right? So then what sort of projects did you do at the start? Was it just sort of renovations? How long until you did your first new build?
Yeah, it was little things. I mean, I'd price anything. I mean, I look back at it now and like some of the stuff wouldn't even get past Amanda now, in fact, the majority of those jobs probably wouldn't. But I mean, it's a different beast in residential, because in commercial, you're dealing with pimply faced QSs, young QSs that don't know anything, but they're doing a tender, and can I get on that tender list? Yeah, no worries. But to try and get on tender lists for residential jobs is hard. It's a different beast. There's emotions, so I would sort of take anything that I could get, like I had an interior designer that I think we used for our house for a bit of stuff, and then she had a client that came up and we did a little job for them in St Heliers, and it just sort of grew from there,
So it's almost like, building like relationships with some influencers such as interior designers or some consultants.
It's like anything. You got to start small and sort of have a go at things, and you build your profile in the residential world, and jobs breed jobs, and being on a street and you're whacking a sign up, and then jobs breed jobs, and it just sort of grew from there,
Yeah. You mentioned before that you learned from your uncle. He ran his business like a lean method, of running it.
Yeah.
And you've implemented that into your business. What is that? What is the lean
I think
method
just you've got to know your numbers, and you can't waste money. Like that's the big thing. You need to check that when you've got a quote for something and somebody sends you an invoice, they've put the right number on the invoice. You just can't trust that people do that. I mean, not so much subbies, but merchants are. And merchants, I don't think they do it to try and get one over you. There's just their big machines. They load your price in for 6 months, and then at the 7th month, the rates lop off, and it goes back to because somebody else is new to the industry or whatever. And suddenly, you're paying $4.50 a metre for 4x2 instead of $4, like just little stuff like that, which might seem, mundane, but it's just, if you let the little things slide, they'll turn into big things. And then suddenly, like making money is not that difficult. You just, simply, you just got to make sure that you bill more than you spend, basically. And, just those little things, like not wasting money. Like we never, I was allowed to spend money on whatever I wanted, but you've got to do it for the right purpose.
Yeah.
And if you need to buy a new drill, what's the purpose of buying the new drill? Is it going to then make you quicker and more productive? So therefore, it'll pay itself off on this job, and then the next job it'll be making you money. Those types.
Sort of looking after the pennies so the dollars can look after themselves, right? And just small things like people go through drill bits, and you're like, why is this going so fast? And why are we using so many? And like this, almost like keeping just an eye on all the expenses, right?
Yeah, I mean, clips. It doesn't get me so much now because I'm not on sites as much as I was. But clips and nails sitting on nogs. Like the boys, we need more nails, and you'd walk around site and find half a box just sitting around. Just tightening up on those things,
right.
Can mean that you don't buy another box of nails for that job. And, it may seem little, but that's, as I say, you look after the cents, and the dollars sort themselves out.
Yeah. And so then let's talk about your business now. So you've grown it over, you said you just had your 11th anniversary pretty much, right?
Yep.
So you've been in business you've gone over that 10-year mark, which is impressive. So what's the structure of your business now? So how many guys have you got working for you, office staff versus on-site, that sort of thing? What's the setup?
Yeah, so we're a shadow of our former selves, if I'm honest. So currently we have 9 out on site, and there's 3 of us in the office. So that 5 months ago, just before Christmas, that was 22 on site and 5 in the office. But we're just going through a lean patch it's been a bit of a forced reset, if I'm honest. The core, I was thinking about this today, the guys I have left, apart from the 2 apprentices, the other 7 guys are all over 40. So there's nobody under 40. And I think we're down to our core at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what have you, when you say it's a forced reset, is it somewhat of a welcome reset, or is it painful? What's been the process, and what have you learned now during this period?
Well, I don't think it's painful, but it's yeah. I mean, the work is there. It's just that the industry slowed down. I mean, it was going to slow down at the start of last year, but then we had the floods, and that was sort of like a little injection of jobs and just, I mean, we've been flat out for 2 years and can't keep up. You can't find enough guys. I didn't want to lose the size because those 22 guys I'd grafted to get, and I had to finish up some guys that had been with me 6-7 years. But it is what it is. I mean, I had to do it. I didn't like doing it. But I had to just the numbers, if column A gets bigger than column B, we don't make money, so I had to make sure that we weren't exposed, because for me, the company's my income and it's my family's livelihood, whereas everybody that left found a job straight away. There's guys out there because the building industry it's an interesting beast, because some can be really busy and some can be really slow. Like we didn't suffer through the material shortage like other builders, and that was purely by the fact of where some of our jobs were. We didn't have jib straddling the jib.
Yeah. It was sort of
crisis,
like luck of the draw of where you were at in your project almost.
Yeah. And we've had a little perfect storm where we had a few projects end towards the end of last year, and a big project finish up, and then that little nervous patch towards the end of last year, people just they bump it down the road, and so yeah, but that's my job. That's my job to try and navigate through that and keep as many people going as I can, And this year will be tough. Like, just to get through this year, will be tough.
Yeah. And you're definitely not the only one, obviously. Like, it's just like the nature of what the market's doing, what the industry's doing at the moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely consolidating and making sure you're hunkering down a little bit.
And even more so now, you have to look after the dollars and cents. You can't be splurging on stuff that, we're doing a couple of fixed price jobs at the moment, which we haven't done in the last. Like, I'm not afraid to do fixed pricing. That's totally fine. We just haven't. The last 2 years we haven't done that. So you are giving fixed pricing for stuff. And so you need to be tighter, and potentially you could make more money on fixed price,
Yeah, for sure.
It's if you can negotiate a good fixed price, you could potentially make more. Obviously, open book's safer for everybody, but if you track it well on a fixed price, you could, you can come out. It's a risk thing, right? You can come out better off.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you so when you let it over to, like, and we won't talk like the whole episode about this, but when you have to let a bunch of people go, how do you maintain sort of the culture of the guys that are remaining? How do you sort of kickstart that momentum of, like, this is like the new phase now, and let's go?
It's been a shit time, and I've been the one that's had to deliver that, and it's been tough, but all the guys have been really understanding, and I think they get it. I mean, I'm not going to say that some of the guys that work for me had their heads in the sand, but a lot of guys out there in the market have their heads in the, they don't get what's going on, and I'm a firm believer in, if you're on the 90-45 team, then I'll look after you, and because I need to keep, like you need to keep size in order to pounce on an opportunity, you know. So I didn't want to lose too many guys, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like it's not nice when the feeling gets around that we, you know, the job's been delayed or something like that, and everybody starts talking, but there's not a heap I can do about that, you know. Like a lot of the guys that have worked for me for years, they know that this, you know, that can happen, but something always comes up, you know, like the phone will ring and we could start a job next week that I don't even know about now, you know, and that's just the way building goes. It's, you know, somebody that's been sitting on their job for ages just presses the go button, or we picked up a job 18 months ago that I'd originally been involved in and then didn't, and then the other builder who they chose pulled out. So at the last minute, I'm getting a phone call, can you start next month? And, you know, there's a $4 million job. So, I mean, some things just have the ability to just fall into place.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you just stay relaxed and stay focused, and that's what I say to the guys, just head down, ass up, you work, and don't worry about it now, you know. I was telling myself that before Christmas, and then we had a few things not go our way, and then February came around. I was like, shit, this is real, you know. Like, I need to, and I think I got to it quick enough. But no, it wasn't a nice little patch of a few months to have to let, because in 10 years I haven't had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard someone once said, or someone told me, like when I was younger, even said to me, like your level of success will be determined upon your ability to give and receive bad news. And that's so true, right? Because that's just sort of the ups and the downs of running business in the long term, you know, and having to man up and be able to deliver the bad news and get it done and move on, and also be able to receive it is really important. You know, just is what it is. But let's talk a bit about how you set your team structure up when you do have jobs. So what's your structure? So you have a project. Do you have like a site foreman there with an apprentice and a couple of guys? How do you sort of set it up?
Yeah, so our sites, we run with a site foreman, and they're not off the tools. So even on a $3 or $4 million build, they'll still be on the tools, the foreman. I mean, they might be more off the tools than not. And then we run an office structure that has, you know, construction manager and myself. I mean, it did have a construction manager, a project manager, a QS, and myself before Christmas. And yeah, so the office just supports, and so the construction manager will, or the project manager will sort of be a month, 6 weeks ahead, and have all sort of client liaison and everything like that. But then the site foreman becomes, you know, they become part of the family with the client as well, you know, and they're the guy they see every day. If I mean, a lot of our clients don't live in their houses throughout the projects, but you know, if they're popping into site or whatever, they see the site foreman all the time. Yeah.
And how do you find you know, apprentices these days? So you've got a couple now at the moment.
Yeah.
What's the state of apprentices these days?
I mean, the state of young people these days is average, you know, like, I mean, not necessarily the apprentices that I've got, but, yeah, I mean, green apprentices, I've had adult apprentices, green apprentices, that haven't worked out. Yeah, I mean, just young, but everyone's they want to get to the top way too quick, you know.
No patience. No patience,
and they want everything tomorrow. And I must admit, I over the past couple of years, and you know, people might not like me saying this, and they might know who they are, but I got held to ransom a couple of times for some fairly hefty pay rises over the last couple of years, and it had me by the short and curlies really, and I had to give it, you know, and I remembered that when I was, you know, if they're on, you know, are they part of the team or not, and so. And a couple of guys I had to say, look, I can't give you any more. You're only 24 and been qualified for 12 months. I can't pay you that, you know. And if you think, you always hear about it, you know, you always hear about my mate's said that I say, well, go and work for your mate then. You know, I had to, you know, through those 2 years, I was like, okay, well, I'll meet that or whatever, or I can offer this. And then I just got to the point where I was like, okay, well, the best that you do, go and work for your mate or this person that's offered you, you know, an extra $5 an hour, but you're driving out to Red Hill and Papakura from the shore, you know?
Yeah.
Like that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I caught up with a builder the other day, and he was sort of saying, only a few weeks ago, one of his young guys also was like just flicking him a text being like, pretty much being like, oh, I think it's been like 6 months since we've talked about my pay. I think it's about time we have that chat now. Yeah. Kind of like young guy. And then the builder was like, does this guy not know the state of where we're at? It's the same way you were saying before.
Well, they don't.
Like,
Yeah.
do they not realize what's going on? Like, it's the most ridiculous text.
Like my advice to anybody, that if you've got a job now, just head down, ass up for the next little while to the end of the year, you know. Yep. But I try and give the apprentices a bit of, like, it's their apprenticeship, and I've had this over the years where, oh, you're not signing me off on this, and it's like, well, it's not my apprenticeship, it's your apprenticeship. I'm not going to go and do your book work for you, and you know, your BCITO man, he comes out 3 or 4 times a year. If you want to see him more often, you give him a text. You know, it's not my, you know, we try and, you know, because the younger apprentices, they're on minimum wage or just above or whatever, and when they start, and then we try and bump them up a little bit each year, provided they're getting through their book work.
Yeah.
You know, and but some of them are in a hurry, and some of them are. I haven't met heaps that are in a hurry to get through their apprenticeship. They're in a hurry once they're qualified to become
like an Instagram builder.
Well, not so much, but the foreman, you know, right. or I might go, you know, okay, well, you can run this little job here, and we'll see how you go. And then they do that for 3 months, and then suddenly they're asking me to be on full foreman rate, and I'm like, but you've just taken so much micromanagement, like, which we get, you know, but you can't expect to get there overnight, you know. When, I don't know, I like to protect and make it fair for everybody, and it doesn't sit well with me if I pay somebody more than they're worth compared to other people, you know. But there would be builders out there that would pay them more depending on what their structure is of their business. They might go into another business and be the top dog, and somebody says, well, I want to put heaps of first-year apprentices around him and this and that, and that's not the model. We're not a labour hire company. Yeah.
I think the model of the story is almost just like just having more patience. You know, even I found it with my baby construction company I was involved in, is that we try to grow. You always try to grow too fast. You always try to like be too far ahead too quickly. Yeah. And there's no, it's not a bad thing to be slow and steady and just have a bit of patience and get better slowly. It's not.
No, and that's what I mean. If you look back at the way I did it, and I'm not saying that's one way of doing it, and it's just how it happened. I started my thing when I was 30, and 20 to 30, I did a whole raft of things, and I basically was running my uncle's company. You know, there was 3 of us, and we had our own little companies within a company that ran, and so I learnt so much of that under the cocoon of somebody else. So, but none of the young guys seem to want to stay till they're 30 before they go and do whatever, because it is, if I put them through more training or anything like that, of course you're worth more money. You can't come and ask me for a pay rise just because you've bought a motorcycle or you want to buy a jet ski, you know, or today you've woken up and you and the missus want to buy a house and stop renting and I'll just ask for a pay rise. It's like, well, were you better today than you were yesterday?
Yep.
What are you doing for me? You know, but that's people are always going to be like that, and so yeah, you just need to take each guy as they come.
Yeah. A lot of guys at the moment now, work's not, as forthcoming as it's been over the last sort of 5 years. What have you done over the years to kind of get more work in? Have you had a strategy around targeting more architects or consultants, or maybe targeting more the end homeowner? What's been sort of your approach?
I'm naturally not a good networker. I don't find it easy to go and knock on an architect's door and take them some coffees. So therefore I don't. Our works come from architects and repeat jobs through different architects. So there's not one architect we do all of our work for or anything like that, or not even 50% of our work, but there's definitely repeat architects. Could I do more in the networking space? Absolutely. That's not my strong point though, so I tend to, it's like the school assignment that you just kick to one side and leave it, we've tried with social media and, I've probably spent $100,000 in the last 2 or 3 years on new website, which we needed to do new website, but, content videos and stuff like that, and I don't know, I have an opinion about all of that stuff. I mean, I keep getting told that you have to do it for X amount of time and then it'll pay off. I've sort of done that a few times and it hasn't paid off, so we've stopped a lot of that now. Right. But I did it to keep relevant and to give it a go, because I remember I had a first meeting with the first guy that we sort of did a bit of stuff with, and they're like, okay, so we're going to, we'll put a budget together. And I said, mate, whatever you put on that page, I will think it's ridiculous, because at the moment I spend nothing, and so you could put $5,000 on there and I'll be like blown away. But I'm happy to give it a go to see some results.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It's a interesting beast. They're trying to get, as I said earlier, residential clients, because I think, does somebody that's going to spend $2 million on a reno find their builder on Instagram? I don't think so. That's my personal opinion, is they don't. It might have its market for a few things and a few trades. We do it, just to show our stuff, and we definitely don't have the phone ringing going, I've seen you guys on Instagram, and
Yeah, I think some organic. Organic posting is always going to, just like, it's kind of nice. It's kind of red dress content, we call it, where it's like it captures someone's attention and then they move on.
Yeah.
So you gotta, we're always a bit more. We're proponents of creating more meaningful. If you did create content, if you did spend the money to create more meaningful content to help you with building trust and connection. When a client comes to you through an architect or architect you haven't worked with, to kind of actually get them a bit behind the curtain of like who you really are and what you stand for, and more the ethos of, and more of those sort of meaningful type content rather than just sort of like the pretty moving pictures. But yeah, I do understand what you mean though. It's like if you're spending a bunch of money and you're not getting any work out of it, then you feel like an idiot to kind of keep throwing money at it, right? Why would you do that?
Yeah, and I think it's coming back to getting work off architects. Architects are, us as builders, we give them crap all the time, but they draw stuff that we can't draw, and but they have their builders that they like using, and it's just like when a Sparky sends me a message and says, hey, I'm a really good electrician, can I do some work for you? And I'm like, yeah, okay, sweet, I've already got 2 that we use, and unless one of them, stuffs up or we'll just keep it at that. And so the architects are hard to break into, because I know we can do good work, and we do good work, and I think, but it's a case of getting a job, maybe through a client who has an architect. They see what you can do, and then suddenly you're on their radar. But I think that's built up over the years. The phone ringing by itself, and getting bigger jobs organically without trying, sort of. Like, I wouldn't go as far as to say, oh, we never advertise, which some people might say, oh, I've never had to advertise and I've never done this. Like, we definitely do. We do a heap in Remuera, and we get a lot of jobs in Remuera because we're doing work there. Other areas of Auckland, which are the same demographic, we don't do any work in because we're not there.
Yeah.
So, look, finding work and getting clients to commit is a big mystery that I haven't worked out yet.
Yeah. And how do your sales process work in terms of, do you do free quotes? Do you do, is it like a paid quote consultation kind of process?
So, I call them seed projects. So we'll get an inquiry and we'll do a bit of vetting on them, and then I'll go out. If they're in the right area, the right architect, and the right type of work, I'll generally go out and see them. My time comes for free in that regard. They may have drawings, they might not, and we might put them in touch with a couple of. I don't like saying, here, use this architect, but I'll look at what house they've got, what the style of it is, and I'll recommend a few, and then I'll say they get a few type of thing, and then 12 months later that might come back round and. So do we charge for pricing? I have charged for pricing. It's on a case-by-case basis. If I feel like we're one of 4 builders and we've got way too much work, or I can feel that we're going to be wasting our time, I will charge for the pricing, and that usually weeds out a real client. If it's a really cool job that I want to do, but I still feel that, we've got a preliminary works document which basically says that we'll charge you for some pricing, we'll help you value manage, everything like that for a fee. And if you sign up with us to do the job, we basically won't bill that. We'll absorb that. If you don't sign up, because we've had projects that were going to go ahead, and at the last minute they've decided to sell the house, or there's somebody's doing a big building next door to them, and it's going to look into their swimming pool, so they don't want to do it anymore. Like, not things that are like that's totally fine. Like, if you can find a house that you love better than the one you're about to renovate for 12 months, then 100. I'd always say to everybody, go and buy it.
Yeah, for sure.
It won't be as good as the one you're going to renovate, though. But that happens, and $4,000 or $5,000 to price a job, just down the toilet, and so yeah, it's a curly question, the pricing.
Yeah. I know a lot of builders also do that, where they do it kind of like they won't charge, but if they decide to sign a prelim agreement or something, and if they decide not to go ahead, they'll have like a termination fee or exit fee just to cover some of the costs or whatever.
Yeah, which is sort of what, like, I'm not in the business to price jobs. Yeah. So if we're legitimately and we want people that want us. For sure. So we'll vet clients where, if we had one the other day where all they did send us an email with a plan and said, can you send me a price for this? And I'm like, no, we can't. And like, if you want to spend a couple of mil on a house, at least call us, because clearly, if you like what we do, then you would give would give them a call, wouldn't you, and size them up and go and have a meeting with them, and so you sort of gauge people like that. Yeah.
So how are you able to demonstrate your value that way? How are you able to get them to commit to you? Outside
selling value price. At the moment is very difficult. It's very difficult because people are just looking at the number on the page, and we don't we do a lot of budget work with people, and that could be to our detriment. We'll put a really detailed budget together, still high level, to get them in before they go from, say, concept design to develop design or something like that. But yeah, it's because I don't think we're the most expensive builders in town. I definitely don't think we're the cheapest in town, and that comes down to what I always like to check with architects is if we're competing against like builders.
Yeah.
Like we can't compete against somebody with an overhead can't compete against Tim and Johnny in their van and who's doing one job, who's managing it as well as trying to build. But you can't. So we'll ask if we're competing against like builders that have similar overhead structures and everything like that. And then if we are, we can compete. It is hard when you're not, and at the moment, if you're down in the under 500 category, there's a lot of fish swimming in that pond. And I mean, we only need to hook a fish once in their life, which is the problem. Like these people aren't building a house every year and they go, next time we'll use you. So if we can't hook them, then we all lose out. So I don't know how, to sell value. Like I think that's where, an architect's recommendation or a client referral, past client referral really comes into it. And at the end of the day, our clients tend to want what they want for a fair price. So, and they get, lawyers and accountants and engineers and stuff like that. They sort of get that, we provide us, we need to make a margin. We need to have an overhead structure that makes sure everything arrives on site on time, and they're happy to pay that and for us to make a living because they want what they just want it at a fair price. They want to know that you're not going to rip them off, and I think that's the biggest thing. If you can be open and transparent and provide a good service, but yeah, when there's a lot of people out there putting some pricing in, it does become hard, and especially if on complex renos, like there could be, like you could have $2.5 million reno with 300 different line items under carpentry, as well as all the tender summary with everything else and tags and from all the subbies, and it's very hard to compare. Some builders show their labour separately. We put it all through the whole thing under each item. Some people might charge more percentage and not take it's...
Yeah, it's not apples versus apples, right, in terms of how those gets presented sometimes.
Well, it could be, but you need experience to analyse it.
Yeah. Well, like in the commercial space, right, it's a lot more apples for apples because it's how it's presented, right? The resi space is every guy's got sort of his own approach to doing it, and it's very difficult for the everyday person to decipher it, right?
So that's we look at that when we look at that when we're analysing a client, and do we charge, and and some people like the value of, because if we charge for pricing, they get a very detailed, valuable document when they're finished. That they can still use. They're not getting nothing for their money, But as I say, we're not there to price jobs we're not a QS firm. We want to price work to get work. That's just so we do try and recoup a little bit of cost where we can, but we also know that we don't. If it's a cool project, we don't want to scare somebody off with, charging for a price.
Yeah, no, I get it. In terms of your company, what sort of numbers do you guys focus on? Like, what numbers are important to you to make sure that business is tracking nicely?
Yeah, so we back cost each job as it goes. So every month we're doing a progress claim, we're putting in actual costs, we're tracking it that way. And I think the big thing is that sometimes, and what we do, like with a lot of charge up jobs, we run a very detailed, we price it like it's a fixed price, and then I think it's very important to keep track of variations on a cost plus job. So on the bottom of our progress claim, if they add another door or they want to replace an old door with a new door, we'll add that as a variation. Because it's all about client management. It tells the story. Well, hang on, I can't put that under interior doors because it's a new door, so it has to go as a variation. Okay, we're on open book. So, but it just keeps the story going, and it saves having, because otherwise you get to the end and you're over budget, and then you're trying to remember all the stuff that they added, and so it's just a little check and balance there, and then we obviously back cost each job each month when we do a claim, and make sure that it's tracking along. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. What are some of the? Success leaves clues, right? So what are some traits that successful business owners have, do you think, compared to guys that are sort of like tracking along and not growing?
Well, I think you need to take some risks. Like, I don't mind taking a risk. I back myself and the numbers that we do. So I think, whether that is, putting everything on the line for a fixed price and going, we can do it for that, and then making sure that you do. So I definitely think you need to have confidence in yourself and be able to you will reach a threshold if you don't want to take any risk. There's no, that you'll reach the ceiling that you're like, well, that's as much as I can do, because I'm out on my own, but I'm really just a labour hire company, and so there's things like this. So there'll be smaller builders out there that'll let the client pay for their merchant bill direct or something like that and not make margin on it, like all those little things, like because they don't want to owe placemakers 20 grand or something like that. So I think definitely having an appetite for some level of risk
is important.
That, and as I say, and knowing your numbers and not spending money willy-nilly on flashy Ford Rangers. When you can't afford it.
Yeah. Do you buy your guys utes? You guys have utes?
Yeah, we've got about 10 vehicles. I mean, over the years, I bought the van first, and then I drove that for 12 months, and I gave it to somebody, and I bought a ute, and then when I got a project manager, they got the ute, and so it's sort of everything built up from there. But I like, the idea of having the guys or the foreman with vehicles is because I, back in the day, would end up being this postman that would be going to placemakers for this, and I was the only one with roof racks, and it just becomes, you become the milkman, basically, trying to deliver everything, and so they can go and do that. They can chuck the apprentice the keys and go and do it. And look, it's billboards driving around, like we do get comments from people that, should I see your vehicles everywhere? And, and there's only, there's 10 of them now, but back then there was only 3. And I'm like, shit, you've probably seen the same ute from the project manager driving around all day, and suddenly it looks like you've got this whole fleet. But I think that's it's a good to have with the guys in their own vehicles.
Especially if you're working in one or two suburbs over and over again, like you do Remuera, right? If you have 10 utes driving around in the same suburb over and over again, it's just a matter of time until everyone knows who you are,
Yeah, and I suppose I like it. Like, we all have apparel, the guys have got T-shirts and vests and all of that, because I think it's, I think that's it's a nice thing to have and it's sort of like, it's better to have it than not. And if the guys are up getting smoko at the local shop and they're wearing the T-shirt, like, it's all just branding, and it's sort of, it might not, no one's going to ring you because they saw someone get a coffee up at the Foursquare, but it's just that muscle memory of, I should have seen them, and then an ad might pop up on Google or something like that or whatever, and then it's all sort of just keeping your branding in front of people.
Yeah, I think it's important, just that that brand continuity. Scott, what does success mean to you?
I reckon it's different now than it was when I started. Like when I started, I wanted to just make heaps of money, and but like now I want to, I want to set something up that that can sustain family and future generations, and so I think that's probably more important. And then for me personally, maybe not working so much, and having things be able to just keep going when I'm not there. Although nobody's retiring anytime soon, but just not like I went through so many years where I was just wired and had my email on all the time, and I'd get client emails, and I was up on site at 7 o'clock and concrete pours and this and that, and to sort of so that came at a toll. I probably made more money, but you can't do that, especially when family comes along and you start missing things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
can you still make could you still be uber successful in the construction game while having a healthy family life? Is that still possible?
Well, I think you can. I mean, the biggest thing for builders, or building bosses, I think, to get is they need to be able to bring overheads into their business, but it's how do you charge for the overheads? That's the biggest thing I'd like to know about everybody that's been on the podcast. How do you charge out your overheads? Because that's a constant thing where you can't have an overhead, because I could have 3 jobs on at any one time, or I could have 10 on, and I can't, if when we've got 3, I can't divvy up the overheads between 3 jobs. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I mean, I've worked out a way that I do it, and I think it works. But the only way for me to be able to drop the kids at school or go and watch one of them play rugby on a Wednesday afternoon or whatever is to have somebody else that's running that. And I sort of have that now. So that's why for me, I'm still heavily involved in everything. And now I'm doing all the pricing and all the QSing and that, and the business development. But I sort of, it's more about that quality of life thing, I think. I think that's, and then also earning enough money that sort of is sort of relevant to the amount of risk you're taking, and
Yeah. Big risk, big reward.
Well, you don't need to take big risks, but I think if you take risks, you should be compensated for it.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, any practical ways of how you navigate business and family life? Are there any practical things that you've brought in over the years to help you be more present at home with the kids and wife and that sort of thing compared to running the business?
Yeah, project managers and construction managers. As I say, I used to do everything. I used to do admin, pay the bills, be the project manager, But for the last 5 years, I've had a project manager of some description and that's definitely taken, the load off me. And to the point where, as I say, the biggest thing for me was not getting emails. I hate letting anybody down, and I don't like to think that shit happens in building, and but it's how you deal with it, and that's the same with clients. But I never used to like hearing that something had gone wrong, or and I'd be sitting there and the phone would ping, and I'd read the email even though so now those emails don't come to me. I hear about stuff and I'm there to help, but it's large. Some of the stuff that I don't hear about probably won't hurt me,
Yeah.
as long as it's dealt with. And all the guys know that. They've worked for me for years. Like, cock-ups happen, but the key is to find what's the extent of the cock-up and what can we do about it, and how can we fix it quickly. Like, there's nobody's ever been reprimanded for making a mistake. Like, that's just what happens. But it's what you do and how you react to it, you know. And I've never got offside with any clients either. Like nothing's worth. Like there's been a few fights, or not fights, but a few disagreements in the past that I probably could have won, but it's not worth it. You know, for a couple of grand, let them win and be the nice guy, you know, because then they'll remember that. And yeah, I could have fought it and won, but that doesn't help anybody, you know.
No, not in the long term anyway.
No.
Awesome. This has been good. It's been good fun. We're going to go head into some rapid fire questions now, Scott.
Go on then.
So answer it as you wish or pass.
Yep.
Cool. You ready?
Go.
Okay. How big is your team?
12 all up.
What's your crew mix?
So on site, 2 apprentice, 7 qualified.
How many projects did you complete last year?
I reckon 3 to 4 good, you know, big ones, and then we're always doing little things on the side.
Filler jobs
Yep.
and things. What was your turnover? Under 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 plus.
5 to 10, but that varies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the lowest gross profit margin building company should be aiming for?
I think you should. Well, this comes back to overheads as well, where you put stuff in your P&L and that. But I think you should try and be as close to 20 gross and as close to 10 net as you can. It doesn't really matter what you turn over. It's what when you shake yourself, what falls out the bottom. You know?
For sure.
So that's my accountant always says, you know, like that's what matters. You know, what drops out the bottom of the company, not how much you turn over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free quote or pay quote?
I'd like to charge all the time, but selectively we do charge a little bit.
QS or price yourself?
We do pricing in-house.
Project management software or spreadsheets?
Spreadsheets for pricing, yeah, and project management software we're trying to get into that for management stuff.
Texting or talking on the phone?
Of late, I don't talk on the phone as much, but you know, everybody else, my wife will say, like I live on my phone. I did for the first 6 years, you know. We use messaging a lot, WhatsApp groups, you know, it's quite good to communicate. And there's some messaging service on our project management software.
Cool.
Yeah.
You have to be honest with this one. What's your emoji you use the most?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay, that's a good one. Nice and safe. EV or petrol head?
Petrol.
Cool. Would you rather have a beer with an architect, a subby, or a council member?
Probably a subby.
Classic rock or rap?
Rock.
Jock or hippie?
Oh, I don't think I'm a jock, but I'm not a hippie.
In between.
Yeah.
Wine or whiskey?
Wine.
Makita, DeWalt, or Milwaukee?
Makita.
You're not a Ryobi guy?
No.
DIY dad one. Renovate or knock down and build new?
Well, 80% of what we do is renovations. A large portion of them probably should have been knocked down. But yeah, probably renovate, unless it's a real shitter.
Cool. These days, apprentices are A, soft, B, open-minded, or C, hard workers. Not your apprentices, just general.
I think they're probably soft.
Are you too mean or too nice to your staff?
I think I'm too nice.
Are you an extrovert or introvert?
Introvert.
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever received a bad bit of advice. I think everything can be taken and used. You know?
Cool. I like that answer. Favorite business or non-business book you've ever read or listened to?
I don't do books.
I listen to books, but I don't read them.
I don't really do podcasts either. I know that's a shit answer, but yeah.
No, it's all good. What's your favorite hobby?
Golf.
Cool. What's one item you can't live without?
Golf clubs.
Good. Do you think more about the past or about the future?
Future. I probably look back a week and then the rest in the future.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's it, Scott. Did you have fun?
Yeah, awesome.
Cool, man. Yeah, time flew, and thanks so much for coming on. And I definitely think there'll be a lot of builders got some value out of that. So yeah, really appreciate you taking the leap, listening to Amanda, and coming on.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.